In a towering glass mansion on the edge of Manhattan, billionaire Richard Grayson lived with everything money could buy, except peace in his home. His only daughter, Emily, sat at her oversized mahogany desk, books spread open but untouched. The tutors Richard hired, each more expensive than the last, never lasted. Some said Emily was too stubborn. Others whispered she was simply lonely. At school, Emily's grades were slipping. Teachers noted her eyes drifting out the window more than to the blackboard. At home, Richard buried himself in boardroom calls and million-dollar deals, thinking providing wealth was enough. But in the silence of Emily's room, the truth was different. She wasn't rebellious. She was broken. Ever since her mother passed 3 years ago, Emily's world had been tinted in grief. She tried, at first, to keep up with expectations. Try to smile at nannies, nod at tutors, pretend for her father's sake. But every formula, every essay, every attempt felt like running uphill with no strength left. One evening, after yet another tutor walked out shaking his head, Richard paced the living room, frustration mounting. "I've given her the best," he muttered, more to himself than anyone. "Why isn't it enough?" But he didn't notice the sadness in Emily's eyes when she overheard him. To her, it sounded like disappointment. Another reason she felt like a failure. Emily curled up in her bed that night, hugging her worn-out teddy bear, the only piece of her mother she still clung to. She whispered softly, "Mom, I just need someone to believe in me." Tears slid down her cheeks, unseen, unheard. Days passed in the same rhythm. Silence, failed assignments, and cold dinners with a father who never slowed down. Yet inside, Emily grew a quiet determination. If the world couldn't give her the right teacher, maybe she'd find one herself. One Saturday afternoon, while Richard's schedule pulled him into another endless meeting, Emily slipped out the back gate. She wandered into the city park, clutching her notebook like a lifeline. There, among the benches and shadows, she spotted a girl about her age, dressed in tattered clothes, but with eyes sharp and curious, scribbling equations in the dirt with a stick. Emily paused, heart racing. Something inside whispered, "Maybe this is the teacher I've been waiting for." One chilly autumn afternoon, Emily decided she couldn't take it anymore. She slipped away from the gates of her father's mansion, clutching her notebook tightly. The security guards thought nothing of it. She often went for short walks to the nearby park. But this time, her footsteps carried a different purpose. She sat on a bench under a half-bare oak tree, flipping through her homework pages in frustration. Numbers and equations seemed to mock her. She whispered angrily, "Why is this so hard? Why can't I get it right?" That's when a soft voice startled her. "You're doing it wrong," the voice said gently. Emily looked up to see a girl about her age, maybe a little older. Her clothes were worn, her hair pulled back in a rough ponytail, and her shoes looked far too thin for the cold weather. But her eyes, sharp, warm, and confident, were unforgettable. "Excuse me?" Emily asked, confused but curious. The girl pointed at Emily's math problem. "That equation, you're making it harder than it is. Look, you just need to move this number here, then divide. It's actually easy." Emily blinked, watching the girl solve the problem in her notebook with effortless precision. Her mouth fell open. "Wait, how did you do that so fast?" The girl gave a half smile. "I've always been good with numbers. My name's Zoe." Emily hesitated, noticing Zoe's rough appearance. Do you live around here?" Zoe looked away, her smile fading. "Sort of. The park's kind of my place right now." Emily didn't fully understand, but something in Zoe's voice made her heart squeeze. For the first time, she didn't feel judged or pressured. She felt understood. "Would you help me?" Emily asked cautiously. Zoe's eyes lit up. "Sure. If you don't mind." From that moment, Emily had a secret. Day after day, she returned to the park with her homework, and Zoe, this mysterious, homeless girl, patiently explained things no expensive tutor ever could. Laughter, learning, and quiet friendship began to grow between them. But Emily knew one thing. If her father ever found out who was teaching her, he would never approve. Days turned into weeks, and Emily's trips to the park became the highlight of her life. Each time, she carried her notebooks, But more importantly, she carried her excitement to see Zoe. Zoe had a way of making even the hardest subjects feel like puzzles waiting to be solved. "Don't look at math like numbers," Zoe would say with a grin. "Look at it like a game. Every problem has a key. You just have to find it." Emily listened intently, laughing whenever Zoe teased her for overcomplicating things. But their bond went beyond equations. One afternoon, as golden leaves swirled around them, Emily asked softly, "Zoe, why do you always stay here at the park?" Zoe hesitated, her hand tightening around her old backpack. "Because it's the only place I've got right now. My mom passed away last year, and my dad, well, he's not really in the picture. I've been managing on my own." Emily's chest ached. She had never known what it meant to want for anything. Yet here was Zoe, smiling through pain most adults couldn't bear. "You're homeless," Emily whispered, her voice trembling. Zoe nodded, quickly changing the subject. "But don't look at me like that. I'm Eufine. If es survived verse. Besides, teaching you is kind of the best part of my day." Emily's throat tightened. For the first time, she realized how sheltered her own life was. She thought about her warm bed, her endless clothes, her father's grand house, things she often took for granted. Zoe had none of that, yet she carried herself with strength and dignity. From that day forward, Emily began sneaking little things to Zoe. A sandwich from the kitchen, a scarf she no longer wore, sometimes even a thermos of hot chocolate. She'd hand them over shyly, but Zoe always received them with a grateful smile. "You don't have to do this," Zoe would say. "I want to," Emily replied, her eyes firm. Their friendship was no longer just about tutoring. It was about trust, kindness, and two souls who had found each other against all odds. But deep in her heart, Emily knew this bond had to stay hidden. Her father would never allow it. Still, every lesson with Zoe made Emily feel stronger, smarter, and braver than ever before. Little did she know, this secret bond was about to be tested in ways neither of them could imagine. It wasn't long before Emily's father, Mr. Grayson, began to notice small changes in his daughter. She was spending less time at home, coming back later than usual, and carrying around a sense of excitement that puzzled him. One evening, while seated in his vast leather chair in the study, he watched Emily walk in with a bright smile and slightly messy hair. She looked different. "Emily," he said in his deep, commanding voice, "where have you been spending your afternoons?" Emily froze. Her heart raced, but she forced a calm smile. "Just the park, Father. I like to read there." Mr. Grayson narrowed his eyes. He wasn't a man easily fooled. "The park? Every day. Alone." Emily swallowed. She could feel her father's gaze piercing right through her. "Yes, Father. It's peaceful there." He leaned back, tapping his gold pen against the desk. "You're hiding something." The word struck Emily like thunder. She quickly shook her head. "No, I promise. I just enjoy being outside. That's all." But Mr. Grayson was no fool. For years, he had built his empire on instincts sharper than steel, and his instincts told him his daughter wasn't being honest. Later that night, he called in one of his trusted men. "Follow her," he ordered. "I want to know exactly what she does in that park. Leave nothing unseen." The next day, as Emily hurried to meet Zoe with her books tucked under her arm, she had no idea a pair of watchful eyes trailed her from a distance. At the park, Zoe greeted her warmly, and together they sat on the bench, laughing as Zoe explained a tricky math problem. Emily felt free, alive. But across the street, a man in dark glasses noted every detail. Two girls, one clearly from wealth, the other dressed simply, possibly homeless. That evening, the report landed on Mr. Grayson's desk. He read it slowly, his jaw tightening. His daughter was spending her afternoons with a street girl, someone who, in his eyes, posed a danger to their name and reputation. He slammed the folder shut. "This ends now," he muttered. For Emily, the world was full of hope. But for her father, it was time to put a stop to what he believed was a reckless mistake. Little did Emily know, her father's shadow was already closing in on her secret friendship. The following afternoon, Mr. Grayson did something he hadn't done in years. He stepped out of his glass tower office and followed his own daughter. He didn't send a driver or a bodyguard this time. This was too personal. Emily walked with her usual graceful poise, unaware that her father's sleek black car crept a short distance behind. She clutched her books close to her chest, her steps quick with anticipation. Mr. Grayson's hands tightened around the steering wheel as he watched her turn into the park. What could possibly draw his daughter here every single day? Parking discreetly, he stepped out and kept his distance. From behind the tall hedges, he finally saw her. Emily sat on a weathered wooden bench, her books spread out like treasures. But it wasn't the books that froze him in place. It was the girl sitting beside her, Zoe. Her clothes were worn and faded, her shoes mismatched, her hair tied in a simple knot. She was clearly poor, possibly homeless. Yet, there she was, leaning over Emily's notebook, guiding her with careful patience as Emily scribbled equations. For the first time in his life, Mr. Grayson's heart pounded not from business deals or boardroom wars, but from sheer disbelief. His daughter, the heir to everything he had built, was sitting shoulder to shoulder with a street girl, laughing, smiling, learning. His first instinct was fury. How dare she? His mind raced with judgment. This girl, this stranger from the streets, could ruin Emily's reputation. What if the press found out? What if their high society friends whispered about it? But then something stopped him. Emily's laughter. It wasn't the polite, rehearsed laugh she often wore at parties. No, it was raw, genuine, alive. She leaned on Zoe's shoulder as they laughed over a silly mistake in her math problem. And for a fleeting second, Mr. Grayson saw something he hadn't seen in years. Happiness. True happiness in his daughter's eyes. And that shook him. His chest tightened with conflicting emotions. Shock, anger, confusion. A storm brewed inside him. How could someone like her, someone with nothing, bring out a light in my daughter that I, with all my wealth, never could? Mr. Grayson stood frozen, his fists clenched, torn between dragging Emily away that very second and allowing the scene to play out a little longer. But one thing was certain. He had discovered the truth with his own eyes. His daughter's secret world was no longer hidden. And the weight of that discovery left him with a decision that could change everything. Emily didn't notice the shadow until it was too late. Emily. The voice cut through the laughter like a blade. Both she and Zoe turned, and there he stood, Mr. Grayson, impeccably dressed in his dark suit, his expression carved in stone. Emily's smile vanished. Her heart dropped. Dad, what are you? Get in the car, he ordered, his tone cold, each word sharp enough to slice through the air. Zoe immediately stiffened. She lowered her gaze, clutching her tattered backpack closer to her chest, already sensing she didn't belong in this man's world. Emily shook her head nervously. Dad, please, it's not what you think. Oh, I think it's exactly what I see, he interrupted, stepping closer, his eyes locked on Zoe. You, with her. He spat the word like it was poison. Zoe tried to speak, her voice soft, trembling. Sir, I didn't mean. Quiet, he snapped, raising a hand. His glare burned into her, as if her very existence was an offense. Do you think you can just sit here with my daughter? Pretend you belong in her world? You're nothing but... Dad, stop. Emily burst out, her voice breaking. She's my friend. Friend. Mr. Grayson's laugh was harsh, bitter. A friend is someone who matches your world, Emily. Someone who lifts you higher, not drags you down to the gutter. His finger jabbed in Zoe's direction. That girl will never be your equal. She will never sit at our table or walk through our doors. Do you understand me? Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she stood her ground. You don't know her. You don't know what she's done for me. She's helped me, encouraged me. She makes me happy. Mr. Grayson's jaw tightened. Enough. His voice thundered, echoing through the park. Get in the car. Now. The weight of his authority pressed down like a hammer. Emily's lips trembled, torn between obedience and her heart. Slowly, she looked at Zoe, her only real friend. The girl who gave her laughter when everything else in her life felt like a performance. Zoe forced a faint, shaky smile, though her eyes glistened. She whispered, It's okay, just go. But it wasn't okay. Emily's heart cracked as she felt her father's hand close firmly around her arm, pulling her away. She tried to look back one last time, but Mr. Grayson's towering figure blocked her view. Zoe stood alone on the bench, small against the vast emptiness of the park. Her hands clutched her bag tighter, as if holding herself together. And as the sleek car door slammed shut behind Emily, the viewers were left with a picture of heartbreak. A poor girl abandoned in silence, and a daughter torn apart by her father's cold, merciless judgment. The bond they had built was shattered in seconds. Or so it seemed. The night air was heavy, carrying the echo of the confrontation that still rang in Zoe's ears. She sat beneath the broken street lamp near the edge of the park, knees drawn to her chest, trying to keep herself from breaking apart. Emily's face kept flashing in her mind, the way she looked back with desperate eyes before her father pulled her away. Zoe whispered into the darkness, "You were the only one who saw me." For the first time in weeks, the brave front she always carried cracked. Her hands trembled as she dug in her backpack, pulling out a folded, worn piece of paper. The edges were frayed, smudged with dirt and time, but the words still burned clear across the top. Honor Roll Certificate. Her lips quivered as she held it close. "Once," she whispered, "I was somebody." Her voice, though quiet, carried the weight of years of silence finally breaking. "I was the best student in my class. Teachers said I'd go to college, maybe even become a doctor. My parents, they believed in me." Her eyes blurred with tears. But then the accident happened. A car crash. One night changed everything. They were gone, and so was the home we lived in. Her breath caught, sharp and painful. She pressed her forehead against her knees, rocking slightly. No relatives wanted me. No one stepped in. I was just left. One moment, I was the top of my class, the girl with dreams. The next, I was sleeping under bridges, begging for food, trying not to freeze at night. Zoe wiped her tears roughly, forcing herself to speak louder, as if the night itself needed to hear her truth. "People look at me and only see rags, dirt, and a burden. But nobody knows I was once like them. Smiling, studying, believing the world was fair, until life took it all away." Her voice broke. "I'm not trash. I'm not nothing. I'm still me. Just forgotten." For a long moment, the camera would linger on her trembling hands holding that certificate, the last fragile proof of the life she once had. And as she tucked it back in her bag, her tears still streaming, the audience's hearts would ache, because for the first time, they didn't just see Zoe as the homeless girl. They saw her truth. The mansion dining room felt colder than usual that night. The clinking of silverware against china echoed in the silence, but Emily could barely swallow a bite. Her father sat at the head of the table, his face carved in stone, his eyes never lifting to meet hers. Emily's chest rose and fell with nervous breaths. She gripped her fork tight, then finally dropped it, the sound sharp against the glass plate. "Dad," she said, her voice trembling but steady with conviction. "You don't understand." He finally looked at her, stern and unyielding. "What is there to understand, Emily? You're my daughter. You don't belong in alleyways, wasting your time on people who can never offer you anything." Emily's throat tightened, but she forced the words out. "She's not people, Dad. She's someone. Her name is Zoe." Her father leaned back, his expression unmoved. "Zoe is a distraction, a mistake, and you will end this friendship before it drags you down with her." Emily's eyes filled, her voice breaking as she pushed back. "No, she saved me, Dad. You don't even know it. She's the reason I smile when I walk out of this house. She's the reason I still believe people can be good. She's not a mistake. She's my friend. My only real friend." Her father's jaw tightened, but Emily pressed on, tears spilling freely now. "Do you know what it feels like to see someone treated like trash when you know they're worth so much more? Do you know what it feels like to watch someone carry pain you can't even imagine, yet still be kind, still be strong? She deserves better. She deserves someone to fight for her. And if no one else will, then I will." Her voice cracked, but her words struck with fire. "Please, Dad, I'm begging you. See her the way I do. Don't just throw her away like the world already has." The room fell silent. The only sound was Emily's quiet sobs and the way her small fists pressed against the table, trembling from the weight of her courage. For the first time, her father's eyes softened, just barely, but he turned away, unwilling to let his pride fall. Emily whispered into the silence, almost to herself now, "I won't give up on her, not even if you do." That night, Mr. Grayson lay awake in his massive, dimly lit bedroom. The silence was suffocating, pierced only by Emily's words echoing in his mind. "She's my only real friend. I won't give up on her, not even if you do." He had always prided himself on being a man of reason, of business, of order. Emotions, to him, were messy, dangerous. But tonight, those words gnawed at him with a force logic could not silence. By dawn, he was already in his car, dressed in his tailored suit, but carrying a heaviness in his chest he could not shake. The driver glanced at him in the mirror, waiting for instructions. "Take me to the east side," he muttered. "The alley behind the laundromat." The city blurred past until the car slowed to that forgotten corner Emily had spoken of. Mr. Grayson stepped out, his polished shoes sinking slightly into the damp concrete. For a man who rarely left glass towers and marble floors, this was another world. There she was, Zoe. Thin, hair unkempt, her small hands cupped around a dented tin mug as she tried to share a crust of bread with another homeless boy. For a moment, Mr. Grayson just watched. His chest tightened. She gives, even when she has nothing. Zoe noticed him. She froze, her back straightening, fear flickering in her eyes. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly, clutching the bread tighter. Mr. Grayson's throat felt dry. He wanted to speak, but pride kept the words stuck. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. Slowly, he held it out. "I owe you an apology," he managed, his voice heavy. "Emily was right about you. I was blind." Zoe stared at the envelope, but didn't take it. Her voice was quiet, almost trembling. "Why are you helping me now? People don't change overnight." Mr. Grayson knelt slightly, lowering himself closer to her level, a gesture that shocked even him. His eyes softened. "Because I saw what my daughter sees. Strength, kindness. The world may have failed you, Zoe, but I won't add to that failure." He motioned to the car. "Come with me. You'll have food, a roof over your head, a chance to finish school if you want it." Zoe's lips parted, disbelief flooding her face. She blinked back tears she hadn't allowed herself in years. Behind her, the homeless boy whispered, "Go. He's giving you a way out." Finally, Zoe took the envelope, her hands trembling. For the first time in so long, hope flickered in her eyes. Mr. Grayson stood, his voice softer now than Emily had ever heard it. "You are not invisible anymore, Zoe. Not to me." As Zoe stepped toward the car, Emily, waiting inside, burst out, running to hug her father tight. "Thank you, Dad. Thank you for finally seeing her." Weeks passed, and the once fragile bond between Zoe and the Grayson family grew stronger every day. What began as charity had blossomed into something deeper, something unshakable. The Grayson mansion, once echoing with silence and formality, now carried laughter again. At the long oak dining table, Zoe no longer sat awkwardly at the edge. She sat beside Emily, guiding her through her lessons with patience and warmth, her sharp mind shining through with every explanation. "See, Emily," Zoe said one afternoon, pointing to a page in the textbook, "when you look at it differently, math isn't scary at all. It's just patterns waiting to be solved." Emily's eyes lit up, and she shouted, "Dad, I finally got it. Zoe made it easy." Mr. Grayson, watching quietly from the doorway, felt something stir deep in his chest. The girl he had once dismissed as unworthy had become not just a tutor, but the very heart of his home. Neighbors began to whisper about the change in the Grayson household. No longer was it just a place of wealth and status. It had become a place of warmth, of second chances. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting gold across the garden, Mr. Grayson gathered Emily and Zoe on the veranda. He looked at Zoe, his voice steady but gentle. "You've given my daughter back her smile. For that, I can never repay you. But if you'll allow it, this house is your home now, too. No more streets. No more hunger. You belong here. Zoe's hands trembled against the folds of her dress. She blinked rapidly, her voice breaking. I don't know what to say. Mr. Grayson smiled faintly, saying nothing. Just keep being who you are. That's more than enough. Emily squealed and threw her arms around Zoe. You're my sister now. Forever. Tears finally spilled down Zoe's cheeks, not from pain, but from the overwhelming joy of finally being wanted, of finally being seen. And for the first time in years, Mr. Grayson felt proud, not just of his daughter, but of himself. Proud that he had opened his heart before it was too late. Sometimes, the richest gift we can give is not wealth, but a place in our hearts. And when we open that door, even the coldest homes can be warmed forever.